If you're like most of the attorneys I talk to on a regular basis, you've really struggled with growing your firm during the pandemic. And perhaps you're still struggling to get your remote team to sort of all pull in the same direction. Hi there, welcome. I'm Cara Pryor, president of James Publishing, founder of our Marketing Amplifier system. Today, we're going to talk to Colorado criminal defense attorney Justie Nicol about how exactly she's built a pandemic-proof law practice using technology and really investing in smart marketing tactics. So today, she'll reveal to us exactly how she's effectively communicating with her team and her clients virtually, the tools and software that she's using right now in her firm to really boost the firm's productivity and increase the level of service that's provided, and the content that she's created to support every phase of the client lifecycle and how it's helped sort of catapult her qualified client conversion rate. And then we'll also talk about how she plans to expand her unique DIY packages to really increase her revenue and increase the number of clients that she can help. So let's dive in. Welcome, Justie. We're thrilled that you've agreed to share what's really working for you and your firm. I kind of wanted to start by touching on this, remote environment that you created pre-pandemic. So, being remote during the pandemic for us here at our organization, it's definitely created some communication issues. So I'd love your take on, do you take kind of any extra communication steps to kind of ensure that your remote team stays fully informed, stays engaged, kind of pulling in the same direction? I'd love to hear what you do there specifically.
Yeah, so we have a small enough team, but being always remote in different states and people traveling and that sort of stuff, like we've always found it helpful to stay engaged with like either a weekly or a bi-weekly meeting where everybody comes in. It's on Zoom, and we grab our lunches. We used to do it at 7:30 in the morning because a lot of our contractors were part-time and they're like, we want to, still make it to our full-time job, but still be engaged. So we would do it early in the morning. And just for like half an hour, talk the same agenda every time, which is just like personal best news, work best news, any issues that you're having, and your plan for the week. Like those four things, we just get people talking, and we start with good things before we get into more of the issues. But it kind of devolves from there, and what ended up being really popular was when we switched it to lunch, we grab our lunches and we spend that first 30 minutes, kind of going around and talking about our last week or two. And then from there, it turns into a little bit more of just a free-for-all, we're chatting over our sandwich or whatever. But there are some really great issues that come out of there and things that I'm like, I did not even know that you were having, this difficulty. And it was really eye-opening to be like, oh, I can handle that for you in like 5 seconds, like while we're on lunch. So that's one of the things we did. We also started a really robust Slack channel too, because my email was getting out of control. I own 2 companies. So by the time you throw in the third email for my personal email, I'm monitoring 3 emails throughout the day. And if you're in court at all, even virtual court, you're not really checking your email as much. So Slack was one way that I was like, okay, I can just get a daily like rundown with my assistant of things that I need to review for signature, what's coming up on next week's docket, that sort of stuff. And that's been really helpful for like IT issues, finance issues. We have occasional casework issues. All of our new intakes also hit Slack, as well as our CRM system, just as a backup. So everybody has eyes on new leads that are coming through the door, making sure they're being serviced. But those are probably the 2 biggest things: stand-up meetings every other week, or at least weekly, and then other way around, weekly or at least every other week. And then also the Slack channels that we've got dedicated.
That's great. I like the really sort of simplistic, straightforward approach of that, right? I mean, both of those tactics can be implemented pretty easily, right? And you know, I think keeping it consistent and straightforward, yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. But Justie, what about communicating with clients as a virtual office? Kind of tell us how that works. Do you find the lack of face-to-face creates any kind of issues, or, you know, tell us about anything that maybe you had to overcome?
With the clients, it's interesting because we're kind of picky, especially on like private pay cases. If you have a major felony and you don't have an email address, we're not going to be the best lawyer for you, right? Like it's really difficult to be available via phone all the time. And so the clients who have expectations that, hey, I can call my lawyer just at any time of the day. No, we are now making them initial our communications policy that we send out with our engagement letter, which is these are the links that you schedule and book calls in advance. You know, you might be able to get through our assistant first. They can help you with some stuff, you know, but if there is like an advice call, you have to be cognizant of the fact that your attorney is not available all the time. And that's just, your dentist isn't available all the time. Your doctor's not available all the time. You might talk to an assistant, you know, or a nurse, but you're not going to get straight up, you know, medical advice right away. So I find most clients actually understand that and respond well to those kinds of boundaries. The hard part is our state appointed clients have different expectations because they're used to the public defender's office. Mm-hmm. And they're also used to not having to pay for it, right? Like if private clients are doing this, they're usually aware that, you know, you're going to have to pay for the lawyer's time. Well, state appointed clients, it's free to them. So they don't care how many phone calls they book with you. Some clients I'm talking to every week. So we've had to have some legitimate, like, sit down conversations. What are your expectations regarding how often I'm going to update you? Because I'm going to tell you, you know, it may not be every week. Some weeks it may be 3 times a week. Some months it may be two times, you know, a month at most. And if you don't hear from me before court, it doesn't mean anything's wrong. It just means I'm waiting on the DA. So they tend to back off once we've had that kind of come to Jesus meeting. But, you know, for the most part, our clients are typically tech savvy in terms of like who we're marketing to. You know, we're all online. We're not doing billboards. We're not doing phone books. We're looking for people who are on the computer, know how to run a computer, and we're using Dropbox and online forms to fill out. So you can either fill them out on your phone, access it all on your phone, or you can use the browser. But if you can't figure out how to do that and we don't get good initial responses from you, we're more likely to decline the initial consult, not even do the 30-minute consult. I just had one come through. We require additional questions if you're looking for long-term financing because our lender has specific things that they need to vet, you know, clients for. You have to have a job. It doesn't have to be high paying. You have to have a job, or somebody who's taking out the loan has to have a job. And so we did a second form for them, and this person got 3 questions in, said, I don't have a job, and they didn't fill out the rest of it. And I was like, yep, take them off my calendar.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Yep. Yeah, that's smart. So Justie, do you have any sort of maybe automated communication that fills any of those gaps? You mentioned that, you know, sometimes clients are kind of wondering, well, you know, what's the work that's being done? Why am I not hearing from my attorney? What's going on? Is anything going on? Have you tried any kind of automated email communication to kind of, you know, fill any of those gaps?
Yeah. So especially when COVID started, we actually had our remote receptionist service go out and initiate phone calls to everyone to let them know. So they called every single client on our books and like, this is our COVID protocol, you know, this is what's going on. If you have questions, let us know, but here's, you know, some information that will help you, just to like make sure, because there were so many things that were moving so fast. And what was great about that was we never got another follow-up call from anybody with those same sort of questions. So Smith AI did all that outreach for us. I used Video Ask a lot. Mm-hmm. So I'll actually record like a video and I'll just say, hey, do you have questions? This is the update for you, but do you have questions? Click yes or no. If you click yes, here's the link for your scheduled time slot with Justie. Most of the time people are like, nope, that's cool. You're waiting on the DA, right?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah. And then we do have, in our intake system, we have email drip campaign through our CRM. We use Clio, but
Clio. Okay.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, we've used other ones, and honestly, once the volume got so big, being able to export it into the case management software was worth it. But yeah, I have a bunch of infographics. We're always about branding too. So brand colors are black and pink because we're all women. Mm-hmm. I feel sorry for the first dude we hire. But
conform to it, right?
Yeah. Right? He's got to be comfortable in his masculinity to right. brand everything pink. And you know, we put together some infographics, just some PDFs, like questions to ask other attorneys, courthouse security protocols if you have to go alone, you know, stuff like that people don't think about. And even when people receive those and they've already hired somebody else, they're like, oh, thank you so much for following up. You know, this was great information to have. And it's like, yeah, great. Can you do a Google review for me, even though you didn't hire me? Like, you got information for free.
That's great. Yeah, and I noticed that you really do educate your new clients kind of what the process is like, what they can expect, what will be expected of them, what they can expect of you, that kind of a thing. What about prospects? Are you educating prospects in the same way? Are you offering that kind of free education, that value, you know, really kind of answering common questions? What are you doing as far as kind of educating prospective clients before they actually sign?
Yeah, so a fair bit of the initial consult is just listening to them. But we have a pretty robust blog where we talk about a lot of these issues. And always during the initial consult, I am doing just a rundown of the process for the first couple of weeks so that they know what the timing and expectations are. First thing, you know, is you click to sign, you click to pay. We get those two things. You can do them on your phone. We're up and running within 24 hours. 24 business hours usually. And then we file an entry of appearance. It takes 2 weeks or so to get electronic discovery. We upload that to Dropbox, and then we give you and me a little time to go through it individually, and we'll schedule a follow-up call. So these first 2 to 3 weeks, I have it laid out for them in just a simple verbal explanation of what to expect. We also have a what to expect infographic before the first call. So explaining kind of that process, like 5 minutes, get to know you, 10 minutes about the case. You know, if you want us to review anything, you send all that documentation here before the initial consultation. So we're doing that a little bit. And then we have DIY packages also, because there are so many people who don't need full representation but have questions like, how do I bond out my loved one? Right? Like, do I know if this person's a good bondsman? Like, they have a billboard, they're right next to the courthouse. Does that mean that they're licensed? You know, so stuff, everything from like handling traffic tickets to serious felonies. There's usually something that can be done on a DIY basis to help with the case. And so we offer those in little bite-sized increments.
Yeah, I really like that, the DIY package concept. It's really unique. And I mean, financially, it obviously allows you to generate the revenue from leads that you would probably otherwise turn away or you know, refer out. And from a service perspective, it allows you to help more people. Is the DIY approach, is that a growing part of your practice? Is it profitable for you to kind of want to expand it?
Yeah, and so right now it's relatively new. Our website is still being developed for the different topics. I have probably 15 transcripts because I dictate like content, and then we send it to an electronic transcriber, and my assistant goes through and makes sure it comes through pretty good. But I can do other things, like in my case, ride horses, and not have to be in front of my computer typing up like, this is how you handle a traffic ticket. Like, but I can talk it, you know, and so I record it. Yeah, I record it on my phone. She cleans it up with the transcription service. I probably have 15 of those that I need to get on the website, but yeah, time-wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've got the animal stuff live and we've got the traffic cases live for the DIY, but there's a lot more that are coming. and will be rolled out pretty soon. And between that and the blog, there's a lot of content there that educates people, that hopefully saves them the headache of, you know, going to another attorney and the other attorney telling them, yeah, you got to hire us, you're going to go to jail. Like, that's not our sales pitch at all.
Yep. Yep. While we're on the topic, maybe you can tell folks a little bit about the your DIY packages. Kind of what are you offering there? Yeah.
Yeah. So we have 4 different size packages. In Colorado, we did a lot of ethics research about, you know, how you can help a criminal client on an unbundled basis, because in a lot of places it's really popular with family law, where you just, you know, enter for an increment of the case, and then, you know, once that's done, you're out, and you don't end up getting roped into full representation with a client who couldn't pay, you know, or that sort of thing. With criminal, it's really difficult because you have effective assistance of counsel requirements. And so once you enter, you're pretty much there for full representation. So our DIY packages, we partnered with Hello Divorce for the family law side, but then the criminal law side, we did a traffic size, small size, medium size, and large size. And basically, they do a 10-minute free consultation with me, and I tell them, okay, this is where I think you'd land in that. You need to purchase this package. And what happens then is I take all the information from that 10-minute consult, all the information from anything they emailed me before the consult, which usually there's a lot of it. And then I also take in the questionnaire information, and I turn around and I generate a PDF with helpful tips and tricks. So it's like a deliverable that they can take with them. Sometimes it's something as simple as like how to negotiate with the DA, but where do you get discovery? How do you get discovery? If you were interested in applying for the public defender, how do you apply for the public defender, right? How do you turn yourself in on a warrant? Where do you go? Is there even an option during COVID? A lot of places that the answer is no. But it's a 2 to 4 page deliverable that has all of that information, phone numbers, email addresses for helpful people, for like the clerk that you're set in that division, where you can look at your future court dates. And I just basically pull all of this together because it's all free information that's available on the internet, but clients don't know where to go, and they don't know what's reliable and what isn't. And so for me, working in the system for so many years, it's like, oh yeah, just look it up on docket search. It'll take me 5 seconds, right? Well, just give that resource to the client. They'll have it forever. It's like the fishing pole analogy. Teach a man to fish, he'll have dinner for the rest of the year, you know? Like it's not rocket science. It's just arming them with the tools that they need to succeed on their own behalf.
Right. No, I like it. So Justie, do you kind of predict that with kind of the receding of a pandemic, will that trigger any changes in how you run your firm?
I'm annoyed. That's about it. Like courts are going back to in-person stuff. They're requiring us to appear in person. And what we're really doing is I'm being careful taking some of these cases, like the appointments in certain jurisdictions, because I'm like, I'm not going to drive an hour and a half to just continue a case again. Like COVID taught me that you don't need that.
Right.
And so I'm going to feel out a little bit whether they're still going to allow Zoom or not Zoom. WebEx is what most of them are doing. If they're going to allow WebEx for quick continuances, that might make a difference in how many cases that I'm going to be taking. But I have like 100 caseload right now. So does my partner. Wow. And we can do so much more online than we can if we had to go in person, because we cover a third of the state.
Right.
So I'm trying to keep those in-person dates limited to 1 day a month per jurisdiction.
Okay.
And I've gotten pretty good at that. And I've literally got next Monday, I think I have 15 cases in 2 counties. So one's on my way to the other one. And we book out travel time, and my assistant goes through and is like, okay, which ones can we continue? Just which ones do we need to appear by phone? Which ones do I need to block travel time as they start to go back to in-person? And then if they don't allow a WebEx option, we might scale back a little bit. It's going to be hard to say because it can't be in multiple places at once. I literally handled 3 cases this morning, one in Adams County, which is just outside of Denver, another one in Boulder, and then another one in Larimer, from between 8:30 and 9:30 in my house.
Right. I mean,
I did not have this hoodie on. It's cold here.
No one was judging you. Don't worry.
Okay.
But you're right. It's amazing how the pandemic has sort of just brought so much of that to light, right? It's like, you know what? Maybe we were wasting a whole lot of time how we were practicing before. Yeah, I think you bring up some really good points there. So kind of focusing more on your marketing, I really like the copy on your website. I think it's really unique. I look at hundreds of attorney sites all the time, and they tend to be very much the same. Nothing kind of distinguishable about them, but I found the copy on your site. It's friendly, it's direct, it sort of artfully outlines how your lawyers help. I'm curious, did you personally write the content? How was it crafted?
Yeah, so we much of the content came from me. I wrote most of it. Our original website, believe it or not, was on the free website builder for Comcast in the back end of Comcast. Nice. I designed it and did everything, and so I had all the content. I went to a small IT company shortly after I relaunched after having my son, and they took over a lot more of that, and we started dabbling with SEO and redirection and that sort of thing, and it worked pretty well. And then when I launched with my partner, Jennifer Gersh, I was like, okay, now's the time if we're going to ever, because I'm like, we have way more capacity now with 2 lawyers, and then we were bringing on staff and everything too. So I said, if it's ever going to be a time to see if this can work, like we need to go big time right now. And so we launched with Blue Shark in July of 2019. And they do most of the SEO for us. So some of those deep pages that are really dry, that are there for SEO, like they're there for SEO. Sure. But the actual content, like about us, even the blog, we write in-house.
Nice. You can definitely tell. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's aimed to like not use big words because our clients have a 7th grade reading level. Right. Like.
Right. Yep. Yeah, it works really well. So tell me a little bit more specifically about your current marketing efforts. How are most of your clients finding you now?
Most everybody comes from Google. So I don't do all of the social media, but I do a lot of it. We schedule social media in advance. And then the personal touch on there is usually me.
Are you getting clients directly from social media? I'm curious.
Yes, rarely. Mostly I use Twitter for like colleague involvement. So I've made a lot of great connections with different folks who are movers and shakers in the legal industry and have taught me so much. We have separate Slack channels for that. But yeah, it's been nice to make connections with other people who are doing things kind of like this. And there aren't a lot of us that do 100% virtual all the time, and then who also use technology and automations and all of that. So that's more what social has been for me, is really finding that team or crowd, if you would. And then we occasionally will get clients from Facebook. You know, a lot of that is like referrals from other friends and family. LinkedIn is absolute dumpster fire. I get so many sales pitches, like, you have a financial advisor, and I'm just,
Yeah, I can relate to that for sure.
Yeah.
So what type of content are you typically sharing on social? I mean, I know obviously Twitter you're using for more kind of referral source and networking, but when you post to Facebook, for instance, what are you talking about?
We cross post every one of our blogs. We try to do a weekly theme that goes along with that blog post, and we try to do 2 posts a day with that. A lot of it is fun stuff. Like, I'm a big fan of the 80-20 rule, which is like making fun of myself, making fun of, lawyering in general. And like funny memes and coffee and cats, and that part you can't go wrong with. I actually have a hashtag on Twitter, #office horses and office dogs. It's real. and people retweet it all the time. It's crazy because I take conference calls and stuff on my horse with my earbuds in, you know, so as long as it's not raining, I'd probably be on a horse right now.
Great. That's great. Not gonna lie,
So,
kind of disappointed that you're not, but
yeah, right. All right, we'll do this one again. But yeah, no, a lot of it is content that is generated in-house. We repost any good reviews from Google. We do a little infographic on Canva to make it pretty and branded. And then, you know, we also do post-intake call questionnaires. Like, even if you don't hire us, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how, like, not net promoter score, right? And then how much better do you feel after having just this half hour conversation with us on a scale of 1 to 10? And almost everybody says 11, which is awesome too. So we just turn that around into a new graphic all the time. And then we've done a few ebooks, especially during COVID, the effect of COVID on like parole and jails and that sort of stuff. Those have been well received. We then, with the ebooks, we ask for an email address. It's all free content, but we do ask for an email address, and that way you can get onto our newsletter as well. So we do a monthly newsletter that features the blog, usually a video, and then a colleague section at the bottom. So I teach a lot here locally for the bar, and then also obviously Twitter. And so I usually put in like referral codes or stuff like this where they can find us talking about, you know, better ways to market their practice or technology tips and tricks, whatever the case may be. There's a colleague section at the bottom.
That's great. I mean, it really seems like you are covering the full client lifecycle with content. I mean, you're educating your prospects, you're welcoming your new clients, you're staying in touch with your past clients with the newsletter for referral purposes, as well as those, you know, referral sources. So I love seeing that, you know, the kind of the full circle. Specifically, you know, I actually really like the red top bar on your website, which talks about your virtual conferencing. I'm interested, do many of your prospects kind of begin by clicking there? Is that a popular button?
Yep. Yeah, and we actually had something drop off there that was a problem because they didn't do the intake form right away. They would just skip straight to click here, the very first line, and I would get the appointment, but I wouldn't get the intake form.
Ah.
So we had to modify that because I could easily tell, oh, this is where they're clicking. This is why it doesn't, because if you scroll down, it's step 1, step 2, form, consult. But that, yeah, the top bar, virtual calls are, everybody's doing them now too. So we're getting more Zoom calls. You know, I kind of thought people would get Zoom fatigue or whatever.
Yeah, right.
And we get a little bit more phone calls, but I would say probably before COVID, we were at 95% via phone and only 5% of our consults on Zoom. And now it's probably closer to 15% on Zoom, 15, 20.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, I think just in general, people are much more comfortable with this format, but yeah, that's interesting. What about referred business? So would you say you're getting more referral business from past clients or from other attorneys and allied professionals in your area? What's the mix kind of look like?
We always, everybody always says you want repeat business from your past clients. And I'm of the opinion, I never want to see my past clients again, like other than at the grocery store or whatever. And even then that might be weird. But like, hi, bye, you know, like say hi on the street. I don't want a second case from any of my criminal defense clients. So that one's always been interesting, but yeah. We did have a lot of people sign up for our newsletter. And I seem to find that, you know, every once in a while, I'll have a really great referral from a past client. And we tend to tell them thank you and send them over a referral gift as well after the fact. Because we always ask, how do you find us? You know, where did you come from? It was a friend or family or colleague. Tell us who so we can thank them. But most of our really great referrals are probably from colleagues, and that's either through the bar association. You know, I'm on the solo small firm executive council, or we have a women-owned law firm group which is called Wolfpack, and that's a really great source of referrals as well. And so I also, you know, refer freely. We've toned down what we're doing to just criminal defense and family law. And actually our new of counsel attorney is from Wolfpack. I recruited her to come work with us. So it's been mutually really awesome for almost everybody that we've connected with in there. And yeah, like colleague referrals, if you referred a case to us last year, we sent you a branded Yeti mug.
Oh, cool.
And it was like, our logo is animal related. It's less animal related now than it used to be when it was just Nicol Gersh Law. Oh, I think I've got, yeah. Oh, I don't think I have an old one, but Nicol Gersh Law, people started calling us Nicole Gersh.
Oh.
Justie Nicol, Jennifer Gersh, Nicole Gersh, they just added an E, and I'm like, no. So,
right.
Not quite. We had to rebrand. We went with Colorado Lawyer Team because of that. But again, I drew the logo. It's all hand drawn. So when we do this year's Yeti mugs, it'll be another cool one.
I like that. I like that. It's something unique, right? Something that you know, it's not everyone is sending out, you know, that type of gift. That's really cool. Okay, so starting to wrap up, if you had to rely on one marketing channel, which one would you use?
Google SEO. Yeah.
Had the greatest return for you, clearly.
It does. Yep. Google My Business posts are easy to cross post with social as well. And people find you there. Like Yelp used to be a thing, you know. Google by far and away blows everybody else out of the water.
Yeah. And Justie, last thing I wanted to ask you, you clearly are staying up to date with tools and software and technology and marketing. How do you do it? What do you use? What are some of your resources to kind of really stay up to date on the latest marketing trends?
I follow a bunch of people online and stalk them. Yeah. Like, you know, there's a few really great marketing groups out there. Blue Shark is really good. They have a podcast. Spotlight Branding has a podcast. James Toolbox, you know, I've played with your site as well. And I think it's mostly just not being afraid to try new things. And I'll sit down on a Saturday and, you know, write a new Zap to connect different things and try to make it easier on staff or whatever. But at some point we're going to get so big that I'm going to have to actually hire that out. For now, it's still all me tinkering, trial and error, and not being afraid of failure.
Yeah. Well, this has been a pleasure, Justie. Thank you for sharing so much of your knowledge, really your success in your DIY packages, your Facebook groups, newsletter, social networking, and of course, SEO. So we really appreciate it. And I know it will be super helpful for our audience. So thank you. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.